Good evening everyone and welcome to round number 7 of season 10 here on Race Department's PlayStation 4 F1 League. As you can see, we are at the Canadian Grand Prix. We've got a lovely dry qualifying and a dry race, and obviously, of course, myself and Michael alongside each other for this race. Be an interesting dynamic given the fact that last season it was pouring with rain, and this season we're going to get a nice dry one. So hopefully we won't see the 45 penalties that we saw last season, but I won't count it out yet. I mean, Sean is still on the grid. Who is the first one on the lap at the moment? The first one on track, should I say? I think it's Jerry. No, it is not. It is Ben in the Sauber. Across the line he goes to start his lap. Indeed, it's the second race we'll have without Mikey Wolford. He's obviously still having his internet issues in his new house. Added to the fact that he looks a bit like the Fly Emirates sponsorship hoardings around the side of the track at the moment. I don't think he would be racing anyway.
This has been an untidy lap from Ben so far. One of the favourites for pole around here. He's been lightning in the practice sessions so far today, but got really out of shape through turn 6 and 7 and then hitting the wall at turn 9. That won't help his chances. We'll see if he decides to stick with this lap.
He does indeed. Through the last chicane, he'll keep it towards the right hand side and across the line, and he sets the fastest lap obviously because it's the first of an 11.1. Tom then goes second on an 13.4 and Harry on a 14.7. So he must have made a mistake somewhere, because I can't imagine that's a true pace from him.
No. He will be another one hoping to be in the sort of low 10s area. I'm expecting Sean to pop in with a 1:09, if I'm honest. I'd be disappointed if he didn't. Whether anyone else has that capability in them to bring it out when it matters, I don't know. But Jerry is another one who's normally strong around here, pole sitter in season 8. Pops up into second there, but we'll see where this lap puts Gatis now. Strong season from him so far, and he pips Ben to pole with an 11 flat.
He does indeed. Thomas briefly popped up to second place there, but he's down to 5th, with the fact that Hasnain and Brown have just popped up in there. Saif also not putting in a very quick lap. He's down in 13th on a 30.8. He went off somewhere. Martin up there in 7th position on 12.2. We've got Drew currently on a lap in the early stages of that lap.
Sean through the final corner. This will be the first taste of what he can do.
And it's a 10.7. So not as quick as you thought he was going to be, but then again, the session's not over yet. Let's follow Drew for the remainder of his lap as he locks up into the hairpin. I was told off in Monaco for the constant camera changing, so I do apologise if it makes you feel a little bit nauseous. But it is what we have to do, unfortunately. through the last
We
corner.
have such
Drew
a
goes.
tight grid.
Where does that put him? That puts him up to 9th. Syph also goes up to 8th on an 11-1. That is a tight grid. 1,000
Second
second
through
between
8th.
7th to 8th.
Second through 8th
Jesus.
is split by just over a 10th. It's incredibly close, and the second down to 13th, all within a second. Such a short circuit here. You do get close grids, but that is taking the biscuit a little bit. That's incredibly close after the first set of runs.
Yeah, look at that. First to pretty much 13th, covered by 1.2 seconds. First to 12th, covered by 7/10 of a second. I mean, I don't think you'll get lap times much closer than that throughout this season. Maybe Austria, maybe Brazil, but other than that, I don't think you're going to get closer than that. So everyone is winding down. Brown's gone up to 2nd position while all of that was going on. Kind of missed that. Abdul in the Ferrari. So a fantastic lap there from him.
Yeah, looks like our boss will be the last person to set a time out of the first runs. Milos with an impressive return in Monaco, scoring some good points. Now driving the Red Bull. What can he do? Exiting the final corner, up towards the line. Can he put himself in the mix? Not quite, but he's he's there or thereabouts. So he's only a 10th off P2.
As is
2
half the
tenths.
grid. We've also got Luke on an out lap on the Super Soft. He's brave. Going for that particular strategy. But you never know, it might work.
His lap's over before it's even begun because he's just got out of shape through the final chicane. So I think he might have just resigned to the fact that he'll be starting towards the back and is just getting a feel for the track, if anything. But I cannot believe it. Top 14 covered by 7/10 of a second. It doesn't get much closer than that. And just a little bit of improvement here or there will see you jump up multiple positions, but I would expect large improvements. We should be aiming for those low 10s. Now that the track's going to be rubbing in a lot more, track evolution here is fairly important. Towards the end of the session, you'll be right on the money in terms of grip, but coasters do not bless us in terms of frame rate. These guys will be suffering in a full lobby with 2 spectators, about 15 frames per second through every apex. So that doesn't make things quite as easy.
Yeah, Tom is the first one to start his 2nd run. As he goes down into turn, well, I have no idea what turn that is, 5 or 6?
6 and 7.
Yep, that's exactly what I said. Underneath the bridge into turns 8 and 9.
7 and 8. No, 8 and 9, yeah. Can't do
in your
either.
face. In your face. Into the hairpin of turn 10. See,
Yeah.
I do my research. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Got a lot of traffic in front of him, but hopefully that won't mess him up a bit too much. He's got Abdul in front of him, who's preparing to start a lap. Shouldn't get in the way. Does not. Let's see where this puts Tom. Is it an improvement? He's currently in 17th, and it just moves him up a place.
Harry brushing the wall of champions. I don't know if he's about to start a lap.
Here comes,
Absolutely
Troy.
maximising the track there.
Is this to start a lap or to end it? He goes fastest! On a 10.4. as Tom retires from the session. As he just resigns. As Troy also backs out the rest of the session. Now I don't really know who to look at. Sean is currently not on a lap. He's just trying to find himself some space.
I think Abdul and Harry are the ones to look at for now. Abdul coming through the final chicane. Improves
his
by
time,
2/10.
not his position. Thomas finishes qualifying in 8th position. Where is Gatis? Gatis comes out the final corner. And that's to start his lap.
Harry's popped up to P2. Just out of Sean there with a 10.6.
Where is Saif? Saif's in the middle sector. He's up on his personal best by 2/10. So if he nails that, that could very well put him up into 4th. As Drew goes into 4th as I'm talking on a 10.9. Saif with a very weird line into the final corner. And he goes 5th. Sean running a little wide there in the second chicane.
Ben coming up to the line. No improved. Wow, he improves by 4/10 of a second to a 10.6, but I'm not sure. I think it was invalidated, so he stays 12th.
Yeah, I'm riding on board with Sean now as we head down that back straight. He was a little wide in the hairpin, so this might not be an improvement. Mullers the curbs in the final corner, doesn't keep to the right hand side for the shortest run to the line, and doesn't improve either. Well, he improves apparently by half a second, but it's invalidated.
Took a bit too much of the final chicane there, otherwise it was going to be perfect. But yes, looks like Troy, unless Martin can pull something incorrect. Nope, he, it's a 10.7, but it's invalidated. So judging by the invalidations in that session, we're going to have plenty of penalties. It's a surprise pole position for Troy.
Can't wait for this.
Pole only 4/10 slower than last season.
We won't go there.
We got pole last season. Oh.
Would you look at that? The top 19 drivers covered by a second in qualifying. That's incredible. Almost the entire grid. That is impressive. Now we got to see if they can keep that up for the race. Oh, we got... I don't know if you got the same view that I just did, but we got 3 or 4 cars bouncing off each other into the sky on my screen just then.
Oh no, that's not a good sign.
They're all back to normal though. And here we go. Thank you very much, Mr. Craig Williams, for the host. Very much appreciated. 14 seconds to go before we start this one. 280 meters between now and turn number 1. Who is going to lead? Is it going to be Harry? Is it going to be Troy? Find out now as we go racing. It's a slow start there by one of the Ferraris. But Troy gets up into the lead. We've got Drew going side by side with Jerry down there in turns 2 and 3 as well. Everybody's managed to get through the first couple of corners safely, at least for now.
Oh, has names around.
Yeah,
That's a turn 3, so we've got to force in your first and last.
Yeah, it's very easy to do that at that corner, and I think one of the Toro Rossos has also had an issue. He's about to have another issue if he turns into that corner like that. Yeah, Frederick just running a little bit wide, I think, as Sean has taken second. Got passing all the way through the field. I don't really know where to look at the moment. Like we said, with a grid quite as close as this, you had to expect it. Andrea losing another place. Got a lot of damage to that front right wing. Both the Toro Rossos pit. That's unfortunate because they're going to have to get stacked behind each other now.
Melos taking an unconventional line through the final chicane after that melee and ended up just cutting it in outright with Andrea almost putting it in the World Champions. Looks like Gerard's slow out of turn 2 as well, so a mistake there for him perhaps. As Ben now finds himself in 11th, and yes, Sean's done fantastically to get himself up into P2 and challenging for the lead already.
Yeah, that's the thing. You've always got to keep Sean in the back of your head. I mean, he may get corner cuts, but he's got the pace and he will hunt you down as quickly as he can. I'll give it a couple of laps. If not, by the end of this one, and he'll be all over the back of Troy.
Tell you what, Jerry's popped up again. Really solid qualifying session for him to go into P7, and he's held position from the start. Once again, he's showing that he is competitive around here. Oh, as we've got Guy forced into the wall by Brown. Brown with damage, and Guy then skips out the final chicane. Gatis will now move to the inside down to turn 1, but that got a little bit messy. And yes, that was unfortunate. I think Brown maybe squeezing Guy on the entry there, and that's basically his race over.
Yeah, you got to watch out for things like that. I mean, we've seen it in real life. I think, who was it? I think it was Felipe Massa and somebody else doing exactly the same thing. As we have a car off the road. It's Andrea in the Sauber down there at the very fast turn 5. Not quite sure what happened, but I'm pretty sure I saw a bit of Mercedes front wing flying about the track as well. Could be wrong.
That's a hefty impact there. You don't often see that. In fact, the last one I can remember doing that was Olivier Panis back in the day.
Yeah, back when he
broke both of his legs, didn't he? So
he
Sean
rides
now
on board
making
with
the
Sean.
move.
Sorry to cut across yet, but he's got the DRS and he's got the first place. Troy's gonna not make it easy for him, but Sean just eases him gently over to the grass and takes that position, and will probably now just romp away with the victory up until the point where he gets several corner cut penalties. I mean, look at that, and look at Harry attacking for second. I think he feels that exactly the same way that I do, and that Sean's going to get away here, so he wants to get ahead as quickly as he can to try and stop that from happening. You know, Harry's got the pace around here. He's looking very racy, and he's about to have DRS as well. Gatis overtakes Brown as well for 8th position.
Oh, Brown dives into the pits. That leaves Guy with a poor line through the final chicane, and he wasn't able to correct it, and he's gone into the wall. Such an unfortunate ending to his race there, I think. And yeah, once again, bit of a miscommunication between him and Brown, and this time it is race ending.
Mikey's going to be absolutely furious. Remember Abdulaziz's teammate in that Ferrari. He's not going to want to see the fact that he's languishing down there in 15th position and getting into all of these incidents. So Jerry, just going back to Jerry as well for a minute, he's doing quite well keeping pace. He's falling back a little bit, but not as much as you would expect. So
you just want him to have a clean race, really. I mean, he does all the hard work at the beginning of races to keep his nose clean, and then sort of as it begins to settle down, that's when he has an incident. So hopefully he can keep it away from the walls and come home with a good result today.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, he deserves it. Got Saif shaping up Drew for 4th position. That would be an interesting scrap, to say the least. Although I'm not entirely sure that Saif carries the same level of intimidation that Mikey does when he's behind you, but...
Gerard could go for a move on Ben here into turn 6. He's gone for it down the inside on the Ultra Softs, but he hasn't quite been able to make it work. He might get a little switchback move down into the next chicane here under the bridge. He'll think better of it.
Yep. He might get him into the hairpin. Now that was a better line through there. Might just have a look into the hairpin. No. Yes. Down the inside. Ben's going to get the traction as he got the power down first. As Troy goes into is the first name into the naughty book with a penalty.
Gerard's gone for it. Down the inside of the chicane.
Oh, brushes the wall. Stays alive and has the DRS and has the position. So that's him up to 9th. Keep an eye on that one because I don't think that's over yet. Interesting to see the mix of tyres. Top 9 on the Ultra Soft, then we've got a selection of soft and super soft after that. So a very interesting mix of strategies going on already in this race. Still trying to shape up Troy for a move. Can't quite get it done.
Yeah, Saif's looking pretty racy behind Andrew as well, but just looks to be struggling with rear traction at times. I see him out of shape a lot on the exits, and that's not helping his cause at all. And I tell you what, Jerry is beginning to close the gap up to that sort of that top group there, so he's slowly going about his business and looking quite competitive. Gatis isn't catching too fast. Whether he's carrying some damage I don't know, but this isn't historically a strong track for the Latvian. Down there in 8th place at the moment.
Yeah, as we just see Luke also join the list of bad boys for the penalties. Surely Harry's got to have Troy now. He's got the DRS, he's in the slipstream. He pulls out to the outside. He's given just enough room. And no, Troy keeps a position. But they've got to be careful because Drew's just closed right up to the back. And instead of just the 2-car battle, it's now a 4-car battle as Saif joins in as well. That's the thing, you've got to be careful when you're doing overtaking manoeuvres, is that if you mess up, you could very well bring other people into play. That's exactly what's happened now.
Yeah, and it depends what kind of Drew you get. You sometimes get sensible Drew who you'd like to think, you know, he's looked a little off the pace of Harry. Hopefully he'll be thinking that he wouldn't want to risk anything as Harry now goes into the book for the penalty. Either that or you get Ruthless Drew who says, I'm fully entitled to have a little nip at your heels, and he'll send it if you get it wrong. So Harry does have to be careful, especially now that both him and Troy are carrying penalties, which means Andrew is running in a net second.
That's a very good point, actually. I don't know if Scythe is just, like you said, just having rear traction problems, or he's just carrying too much weight, because Drew just drove away from him and closed right up to Harry very quickly down that straight, so it just sort of left Scythe behind. I can't imagine he'd want too much downforce on this racetrack. But then again, I guess he'd want more downforce than the same bombs on.
Yeah, it's definitely a balance around here. It's very much about the straight line speed, really, and if you do, you know, try and maximise your sector 2 pace, it can leave you vulnerable in a straight line. And I think that's what Scythe is experiencing there. Just able to get on the back of Drew up until the hairpin, and then he's left for dead on the straight. Harry doesn't look like he's close enough to Troy this lap to try around. You've got to launch it down the inside if you're going to make a move there. You've got to do what Gerard did.
Oh, he's got
going huge overspeed, but I don't think
that was close.
Quite close enough. He's lost the rear end on exit once again. He's just got to be careful he doesn't throw it all away like he did in Australia. For example, Andrew is on the prowl and doesn't want to be held up himself here.
I was just going to say, like he usually does. Whether by his own mistake or by the game or something. Oh, and he was very close to the wall there, so maybe we should stop talking about him making mistakes, otherwise he's going to make one.
I think a little shout out to Mikey's replacement in this one, Tony in 6th. The Croatian with a very solid race so far as he absolutely runs wide and gets a 3-second penalty as soon as I go to compliment him.
What did I just say?
Well, I mean, you said not to compliment or not to talk about Harry, so I talked about someone else, and it's gone wrong for them. But nonetheless, it has been a very solid race from him so far. And he can be very happy with that. Qualified 8th, but he's raced solidly and is, well, I mean, he's in with a shout if the top guys keep getting penalties, but yeah, hasn't helped himself with that corner cut there.
Yeah, I can't help but notice that I don't think Harry had the DRS open down that back straight. At least it didn't look like it from my perspective. That's probably why Drew is all over the back of him at this point.
Yeah, DRS failures do happen, and they are random. And you'll only maybe get one once or twice in a game cycle, but when it strikes, it's the most infuriating thing, especially in Harry's situation now. I think I got it once last season. Thankfully, it was one of the races where I was out in front, but we have Hasnain and Martin having a little squabble on the super soft tyres for people. Oh, sorry, no, it's Martin and Luke. I think Luke's made that pass. He was behind Martin a few laps ago, so I think he's got the job done there.
He has, just as Ben gives himself a penalty.
Oh, Gerard sends it on Gatis. He's done another Daniel Ricciardo-esque move. Can Gatis hold it around the outside like Ben did? Yes, he can. I tell you what, Gerard's looking really racy today, very confident on the brakes. I think he's going to get it done here into the chicane.
Well, here we go, side by side. No, he backs out of it, and that's because Gatis pits.
And it's thrown
of course
him off.
There's a penalty.
He's corner cut. It's such a distracting pit lane. We've seen it catch out Guy, and now Gerard's fallen foul of it as well. And Ben is now looking to capitalise on that mistake.
Interesting. Gatis onto the soft tyre, so I'm assuming that's to the end of the race. as Martin's having another go at Luke down there into turn 2. Couldn't quite do anything with it. Let's have a look at Ben now trying to get that position back. As Abdul gets a penalty to add to his woes.
Andrew's having a look at Harry in the hairpin, and that might cost him because Saif is right on the back of him now, but like you said, he's just struggling in a straight line, and we've got to think about pit stops now. The tyres will be going away from these guys, so who will blink first? The front two. Box,
Sean, Troy and Harry have pitted.
And Sean. Jerry has got a penalty, that's a shame, but hopefully he can keep it all together and still bring home a decent result. But yeah, there's Tony now closing onto the back of Andrew and Saif, so it's all happening.
Gerard pits as well. Oh, Saif very close. Has a look, but can't quite do anything about that. That's too short of a braking zone. I know I've pulled off that move in a GT car and iRacing, but in F1 probably not.
Sean's exited right behind Ben, and he'll be on superior tyres. Obviously Ben on softs, he'll be going a long way, so Sean will need to get past him as quickly as he can.
I will be about to do so. It's Harry and Troy very close together as well.
It's a late move from Sean, but he's muscled his way through.
In a typical
I don't think he intended
fashion.
to make a move. I don't think it was actually an intended move there. He's just sort of
done a typical Sean and missed his braking point and had to send it.
Yeah.
Drew and
Did a
Saif
decent
also
job there,
pit. That'd be interesting to see where they come out in relation to that. Saif can't
Troy
get
gets another
the
penalty.
job. And again, interesting strategy split, if I can get my bloody words out. Saif goes straight off the road. But he's on the soft tyre and Drew's come out on the super soft tyre. He's going to try and make those goes 20 laps. Which I think is possible.
Yeah, the super softs will make it to the end. I think Saif might have missed the trick there. We have seen him get the strategy wrong a couple of times this season. But I mean, the tyre wear at the end of the race does really come into play, and those super softs won't be fun. As soon as they sort of get to about 40% wear, they really start to drop off. So look out for Saif at the end of the race. If you can keep decent pace on these, they'll be there or thereabouts. As Troy really looking at
We've got a wonderful
Milos
Armageddon section going on here between Milos, Troy, Harry, Drew and Luke as well. There goes Troy down the inside into the final chicane, gets that move done. Harry's going to try and follow him through. And Drew's going to try and follow him through as well as they make contact. All but brief.
Oh, Milos.
And Milos thinks to get the hell out of there.
For that. Oh, he's escaped without penalty, but that ruined his race effectively.
He got well out of dodge there. And that cost Harry a bit. He's now dropped to 1.1 seconds behind Troy. Make that 1.2. Gonna want to get that back. And that was costly from Saif, that little run off onto the grass on the exit of the pit lane. Because rather than being right behind Drew, he's now 2 places and at least a couple of seconds behind him. As Tom gets added to the naughty book.
Looking at Jerry in P10, has been ahead, has yet to stop starting on those super softs. He might be trying to drag them out to an ultra soft stint, so Jerry will want to get past him as soon as possible, but he's got to be very careful onto the brakes. They're almost rear-ending him into the chicane.
Well,
there it
there's
is.
Sean with his first penalty. but he is 7.5 seconds in the lead, effectively, when Ben pits. So, well, he's more than that because Troy's got about 6 seconds worth of penalties, I think.
He does indeed. This is Jerry's chance. Has no out of shape.
As Luke is going to lose a position here into the second chicane.
Jerry's thrown it down the inside as well. And he's got it done. Up into P9.
Loses 2 places there. Oh, wow, that was
Gatis.
close.
Could this be a double overtake for Gatis?
Whoa!
Oh!
What on earth was that?
Milos and Gerard have come together well before the hairpin, and they've absolutely siled into Gatis and Jerry.
Milos retires.
And suddenly Hasnain finds himself back further up the field where he was to begin with. That is a remarkable crash.
I'd like to see the onboard of that, because we just about caught that, as both Troy and Harry get even more penalties.
So Harry's onto 6, Troy onto 9, which means Andrew is looking so good for a P2 here. If he can keep pace with them. Abdul into the naughty book as well. Penalty left, right and centre. Hopefully that hasn't given any damage to Jerry. Oh, it has.
Yeah, he's in the pits.
His front wing's been knocked.
Luke also joins the naughty book.
So unfortunate for Jerry there. Had kept his nose clean for 16 laps, and then for that to happen is just awful. And he's going to struggle with back end points now, holding on to them with that lack of front end downforce.
I don't even really know what happened. I'm pretty sure one of them probably went for an overtake and hit the grass, and then they all sort of met in the middle. That's all I could really see from the brief glimpse that we got out the corner of my camera shot.
Yeah, I didn't get a great angle of it either. I mean, the only thing I can assume is that I think maybe Gerard's gone for the move on Milos, as he was behind at the time, and then Milos might have slightly pinched him into the braking zone, come over on him, and sent them both sort of out of control. Yeah, difficult to see with the angle we got, unfortunately.
Martin adds himself to the naughty book.
Gatis is going to set up a move on Jerry now.
Oh, and that's Tom retiring from the race. He had just pitted.
Gatis round the outside of Jerry. Oh, Jerry's hit the wall on exit and lost even more front wing. He'll have to pit now, surely.
And again, it looks like both sides of his front wing are damaged, so that might equal out. Nope, he pits. Can he get it stopped? Yes, he does. Doesn't get a penalty this time.
It'll be a long stop with a front wing change and a 5-second stop go.
Also, it looks like Harry's closing back up to Troy for third place.
Although he does have front wing damage. That front left end plate.
We've also got Thomas and Gerard getting a little close together in the back as Troy gets another penalty. I wonder if Troy is driving Sean's Force India from last season.
He might well be, because those penalties would put him back down in 8th place as of right now. I mean, Luke is still yet to pit, of course, but it's it's been absolutely atrocious. Sean's been keeping it clean. He's even boxed onto the soft tyres instead of the super softs, just so that he can cruise home and not have to worry about tyres at all. But yeah, Troy throwing away a potentially decent result here with some interesting lines through the corners.
And he's also lagging a little bit. At least he was on my screen. Hasnain and Luke pit. Harry gives himself another oh my god, what?
Oh my god, he's on to 9. Andrew's going to cruise to the easiest P2. He's going to repeat the performance in Season 8 where he ended up finishing second. Again through just his misfortune and stupidity.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you've got to put yourself in that position to start with.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong, it's been a, really solid drive from Andrew. Hasn't put a foot wrong. He prides himself with getting sort of very little in the way of corner cuts and penalties, and he always benefits from it. And he's going to do so again today, and it is fully deserved.
Yeah, as Gerard sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far.
Didn't put that one in the fantasy.
Yes. He's currently just half a second off the back of Jerry, so... And he's just lost 0.2 of a second, perhaps at that.
He got very sideways on the exit of turn 9, yeah.
He should catch that back up, though. But then again, they're both on sort of equally aged tyres, I think, as Frederick pits on the soft tyre.
Yeah, and over one lap, Gerard really isn't normally that competitive, and if they're going for fast laps, obviously that's what counts, and indeed, Jerry has just betted that. Great little squabble over the fastest lap there, but in the race, Gerard just comes alive, shows really competitive pace, and was on for a decent result here before the incident with Milos.
Yeah, we've also got Hasnane on those ultra soft tyres, cruising up to the back of Martin on the soft tyre, so I can't imagine that's going to be too long. And there you go, he's through. Ben pits as well. Gerard gets a penalty. And Harry is now just 0.4 off the back of Troy, so he's closed back up again.
Well, Ben has exited the pits in P7 on fresh ultra softs with a 7-second gap ahead of him, so expect the fastest lap time to tumble a little bit, and hopefully he'll be able to latch onto Siphon. If not, that top group by the end of this race, he should make it very interesting here in the last 12 laps.
I do hope he does, because it's starting to die down a little bit, as it usually does, to be fair, at this stage of the race. Hasnane with another penalty. At this race, at this rate, instead of our final lap crescendo that we usually build up to, it will be a final standings crescendo.
Ooh.
When all those penalties are finally added up.
It is incredibly disheartening to be driving a race where you know that your finishing time is 12 seconds behind where you are. At a track like this, it does punish track limits incredibly harshly, but for good reason. So much can be gained from taking more curb, and you've got to factor that into your race as Tony just brushes up against the wall at turn 9 in his pursuit of Andrew. Scythe, not electric on those softs, but not falling off too much, so if he can start now to reel in that group of super soft runners, he should be able to be competitive with them at the end. But what he's got to do is probably let Ben go immediately, and just use him to slipstream up to the back of the pack of super soft runners ahead.
I'd agree with that strategy. Although Ben's not exactly setting the world alight on those ultra softs. I mean, I half expected him to be, well, I say as he sets the fastest lap, but looking at the gap between him and Scythe, it's only come down a couple of tenths.
It's only 2 tenths up on what Jerry did, and he's on the super soft, so I'm expecting Ben to pop into the 11s. Maybe he made a little error on that lap.
Expecting a huge lap.
But Sean's pace on the softs is superior to that of Harry, Troy, Andrew, all the super softs there. His fastest laps 4 tenths faster than Troy, who's done remarkably well. He must be running a quite low aero setup because he hasn't had the race pace, but Harry has not been able to challenge him at all. Unfortunately, he's come completely undone through his own fault, really, with the corner cutting penalties. But we'll see where he ends up.
Oh, Harry's having a look. Oh, he almost squeezes him, but gives him just enough room to put his car back where it should be. Ben sets another fastest lap and takes, wow, he's so much for he's not that quick. He's just taken 1.5 seconds out of Saif on that lap alone as Abdul pits again, and Ben's giving himself a penalty. I had a feeling we were going to say that a lot, and we've still got 9 laps of this race remaining.
Oh, Abdul slots in with Gerard and Jerry, so that could be an interesting. Running fairly closely together, and Abdul will want to set a fastest lap because his race hasn't come to much in any other respect. As Tony's really looking racy. Here he's on the back of Andrew, who doesn't have DRS, so that could leave him vulnerable into turn 1. Very vulnerable.
He's looking for the move down the inside. Oh, they make a little bit of contact there on the apex, but not too much. Still side by side coming out of turn 2. And Tony wrestles that position off of Drew. So he's now up into 4th place. I'm not sure how many penalties he's got, if he's got any.
I think he's on the 1, so I think Andrew might still be safe with that one, but nonetheless it was fantastic, clean racing. Andrew will always give you space if you're racing cleanly, and Tony repaying the favour there. But Tony does have 6 seconds of penalties in this one, so unfortunately it doesn't mean much for him. And Andrew is still comfortably running in a net P2. Saif as well, maybe on the verge of a podium if he can get his act together. He does have 1 penalty, but it's considerably less than what Harry and Troy are carrying. So we'll see if Harry, looking at Troy now, can he get the move done in turn 1?
Oh, no. They brush wheels again and Harry's gone off.
That was optimistic.
And he's given himself a 10-second penalty.
On to 19 seconds now.
As Jerry passes Gerard further down the field. I can imagine Harry getting extremely frustrated now with Troy and his defence. I don't really think Troy's done anything wrong in his defensive moves, if not slightly. But
Gerard's
nothing terrible.
Run wall. Gerard and Jerry just coming nearly to blows on the entry to the chicane, but Gerard sensibly.
Oh, Ben sent it on Saif. Sorry to cut across here, but Ben with a Daniel Ricciardo-esque type dive into the hairpin. It was a little wheel bang, but they've gotten through safely, no damage. And Ben goes on his merry way. Saif just needs to make sure he doesn't get any more penalties. He just got another one early on in the lap.
Yeah, in amongst that, Luke unfortunately ran wide into turn 8 and has let Hasname through for P9 there. But yeah, Ben coming from a long way back there, making it work. and it's now his job to make this race interesting. He's really not far off that group on the of the super soft runners. Can he steal a podium here?
We've got 6 laps of the Canadian Grand Prix remaining, and he is by far the fastest man on the track. And we've got Harry and Troy part 2, well, part 5 or 6 at this point, about to get underway. We've also got Abdul and Martin about to get underway shortly as well, further down the field for 11th position.
So Harry and Troy both have 12 seconds of penalties. Ben carrying 6 seconds of penalties. So he needs to get within 6 seconds of them, which he has done. But then we've got to factor in Tony.
Is only on... Well, no, actually.
Saif has 2 penalties as well.
Fourth place, but I think he might be slightly disappointed.
So Saif, Ben and Tony all have the same amount of penalty. They all have 6 seconds, and then Harry and Troy are on 12 seconds.
Oh,
so
we've
we'll
got
work that
yellow
out.
somewhere. Quickly withdrew.
It's
Ben's
Gerard
giving himself
wanted
another penalty. So that's given Saif
9
a
seconds
bit
for him. Oh.
of respite. Although he is now on the back of Drew, so let's have a look at this. Drew's probably just going to let him go. And he does so. Sensible driving there from Drew, especially given the fact that Ben's got some penalties and Drew doesn't. We've now got Tony on the back of Harry. And Harry's fallen off the back of Troy, so maybe he's given up with that one. Yeah, we're going to have to keep an eye on this battle because that's all we have right now, unfortunately, with 4 laps remaining.
Yeah, it's bizarre looking at Andrew in 6th place, and he's our 2nd place man at the moment due to penalties, and I think Tony is currently our 3rd place runner when all the time penalties are added together. So it's not the fight you want to see with all the calculations and maths behind it. You just want a flat out fight for position in an ideal world, but we don't have that. But Tony looking fairly strong at the end of this race. Can he cause some excitement here with Harry in the last few laps?
As Gerard gets another. Yeah, Tony only 6/10 off the back of Harry, and Ben closing him down as well. 3-way dance for the final 3 laps of this race. As Sean gives himself another 3 seconds of penalty. Not that it particularly matters, because on the road he's 16.5 seconds up. But I actually think he's even further ahead than that, given the 15 seconds of penalties at the other side. Here goes Ben. Down the inside into the hairpin. It's a slightly cleaner move than the one that he did on Saif earlier on in the race. Gerard pits again, so I guess he had damage.
Yeah, and his teammates coming under pressure from Abdul here as they head down the sort of back straight towards turns 8 and 9, but Abdul thinks better of it. Can he size up a move into the hairpin now? On the fresher ultra soft tyres, he's going to go for the outside.
Oh,
and there's contact.
Touched. Oh, and Troy with another penalty. Abdul with a rather messy switchback. We've now got Ben on the back of Harry with 2 laps remaining.
Luke's slid through the final chicane. Abdul just pushing him through it. Can he jump down the outside of turn 1?
That would be brave if he does that. What a move!
And now we've got Ben sizing up Harry into the hairpin.
I don't know where to look because this fight with right, that's over. Let's quickly go back to Ben.
Harry wasn't having any of it, forced him to the outside and gets a decent exit, but will it be enough? Ben will charge down at him into the final chicane.
Oh, he's got the DRS. Surely he's got him now. No, he doesn't.
I
Quite
think
sure
Luke
what
did
happened,
another mistake.
Oh, and there's Harry with another penalty.
Harry and Troy running 15 seconds of penalties now. So
I think
they're
it's more
completely
than that
out of
now.
contention.
Oh, lovely switch back there from Ben. And he's up into third, or at least he should be. As Harry takes to the runoff area in sheer terror. As these guys are starting to get a little aggressive with each other. And that's put Tony right on the back of him now as well.
Harry being a bit prideful there, but of course he's not on 15 seconds, he's on 22 seconds because of his 10-second penalty that may well be revoked if he so wishes to. But yet Tony, he's right on his tail here. 1 lap to go. He's got to be thinking of, you know, the long game really, as we get 2 penalties for people there. I think Jerry and someone else has gone into penalty, but yeah, always thinking about it late there.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been very smart for him to do that. As Gerard sets the fastest lap of the race on an 11.2, which would have put him oh, for God's sake. And there's Sean with another penalty. Not that it particularly matters at this point, as he's on his final lap. Where is he? He must be close to crossing the line at this point. He is indeed. As Jerry passes Martin. No, he doesn't. Yes, he does.
Sean with a little wiggle out the final corner.
Sean wins your Canadian Grand Prix and puts it stylishly into the barriers. Ben couldn't quite catch up to the back of Troy. Maybe if this race was a lap longer, he would have been right on the back of him. Ben does, of course, provisionally take second until there you go. Drew now takes second. Ben takes third. Tony takes fourth. Scythe takes fifth. Troy down there in sixth. Harry down there in seventh. Eighth, because Gatis finishes seventh. Hasnan crosses the line to take ninth.
Oh, and Martin around the outside into the final chicane. Takes Jerry, but has to cut the chicane to do it, so penalties will decide this one. And Jerry comes out on top. It was an ambitious move, it was a nice move.
And Luke passes him as well with that penalty.
Can Frederick challenge him? Yes, he can.
And Drew is absolutely ecstatic with his podium. He's just screaming in the game chat. As is Harry at Troy, but we kind of expected that to happen. There we go, so there's your podium. Sean, Drew and Ben. Definitely not the podium that we thought we were going to see up until all the penalties kicked in. But there you have it. Sean wins from Drew Ben in third, Tony, who's a stand-in, in fourth, Saif in fifth, Troy in sixth, Gatis in seventh, Harry in eighth, Hasnain in ninth. Abdul takes out the final point. And yeah, who's your driver of the... Well, I think this is obvious given the fact that he's the only one without a penalty, but I'll ask you anyway. Your driver of the day?
Yeah, there's not many candidates. I mean, Sean, obviously the dominant performance that we expected, but not quite in qualifying. So I think I'm going to have to give it to Andrew for being not only the only one without a penalty, but I think Frederick's the only one with one penalty. Everyone else has absolutely tons of the things. So yes, Andrew gets my driver of the day for just keeping it clean, and he's got the reward for it for P2.
Yep, and I've got to say I agree with you there as well. Got one driver there with 17 seconds worth of penalties, which is fantastic. But yeah, not exactly like you said, not exactly the way that we want races to be really decided. But unfortunately, that's just how it is sometimes. I don't think we'll have that problem next time out. Where are we next time out? We're at Malaysia. Yeah, we're at Malaysia next time out. So if you get a corner cut penalty there, you're doing something badly wrong. But yes, like I said, next week is the Malaysian Grand Prix, and then after that we are off for a couple of weeks. So I do hope you tune in for the race next week for a couple of weeks off, and hopefully F1 aren't staging their bloody stupid F1 esports race at the same time like they are doing currently.
How unthoughtful of them.
I know, especially with the way that it turned out last night. I mean, they waited
an
an entire
least...
hour for somebody to come in, and then they blamed DDoSing and all sorts.
Well, all sorts of theories were flying around yesterday, but thankfully we're not important enough to suffer from any of those issues. We just get your standard run-of-the-mill Codemasters glitches.
Yes, but anyway, thank you guys that did tune in and didn't tune into that. If you do want, you can go over and tune into that if you want. But yes, thank you very much for watching. We shall see you next time out for the Malaysian Grand Prix. Take care of yourselves and see you soon.